Kobe. What's up, my dudes and duettes? Welcome to another episode of Sports Eyes. So I was watching a little bit basketball lately, and I've been noticing everybody's been getting their ankles hurt. So whether it be getting crossed up,
man is down.
How does it look from court angle? Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! That's not good.
yeah, that was bad. But I'm actually talking about something much more serious. So if you're playing a sport like basketball, something that tends to happen is you're more likely to run into an injury like an ankle sprain. And that's not a fun injury to deal with. I've dealt with it in the past and it's not fun. So I'm here to tell you ways that you can improve so that you don't have as many ankle sprain injuries. And if you do have one, then you can recover that much faster. So to first start off, again, like I mentioned, when you're playing basketball, because you're changing so many different directions, or even if you're jumping and you're landing, it's going to be real difficult on your joints. So because the ankles is the bottom joint and the one that makes the most contact with the ground, that's the one that's more likely to start to lead to other injuries. And also, even when you're playing basketball, I mean, if you're rebounding, you might end up landing on somebody's foot, and that's how a lot of times you see these NBA players end up getting hurt. So recently, Steph Curry was playing a game against the Spurs, and then he went for a layup. I don't know if he made it or not, but when he landed, he ended up stepping on somebody's foot and it rolled his ankles. Now, Steph Curry, if you know much about him, he has a history of ankle issues, and anytime he has ankle issues, his team really doesn't do well because it hurts his performance. It makes sense. So one of the first things, if you're a basketball player, to avoid ankle injuries and avoid ankle sprains is you gotta stretch. I used to make this mistake before. In fact, when I ruptured my Achilles, the night that I did it, I remember before my basketball game, I actually thought to myself, I should stretch, but I wasn't stretching. But that's a whole nother topic. So there's a study in Australia that I just read up on that showed that they studied up on 10,000 basketball players, male and female, and they noticed that the basketball players that didn't stretch and the basketball players that stretched, the difference was the ones that had not stretched were 2.3 times more likely to have an ankle injury, and that is something that can be prevented in just 5 to 10 minutes. So now you're probably wondering to yourself, okay, so you understand the importance of stretching, but you need to figure out how to do it. Okay, so the first thing that you can actually do after you've done just simple stretching, basically like walking up against the wall and stretching your calf, as you may know before, is you gotta do an active dynamic warm-up. Now, if you've seen some of my videos before, you'll see me do an active dynamic warm-up, especially on days when I'm gonna be lifting something heavy. If I'm doing squats or deadlifts, I gotta make sure my ankle mobility is on par. So you'll see me jogging back and forth, and then I'll also do some ankle mobility exercises where I'll be standing on my tippy toes, standing on my heels, back and forth, doing ankle circles, everything that is gonna be necessary to get my ankle joint ready for the types of movements I'm gonna be doing. And then also I might throw in some things that are quick, rapid movements. So that's what a dynamic warm-up is gonna help you with, is you're doing quick, rapid movements that are similar to the exercise that you're about to do. So what's helpful with this is that if you're worried that it might hurt your power or anything like that, don't worry about it, because you're just doing like a little quick short, like maybe 10-minute warm-up, you know, just going through the motions that you would go through in a game. Like let's say you're driving to the basket, or you're just running up and down on defense. So it's nothing too much to worry about. So once you got the dynamic warm-up taken care of, the next thing, a very, very, very important thing that a lot of basketball players really forget about, and I used to for a while, is you gotta strengthen your ankles. You gotta strengthen the muscles around the ankles more specifically. I had to learn it the hard way. For me, when I ruptured my Achilles is really when I learned that there's a lot of muscles involved around the ankle that you need to strengthen. So you gotta hit the gym. I'm going to give you 2 exercises that you can actually do to help with this. So the first one is single leg calf raises. Single leg calf raises are great because in that first component, as I mentioned, you get to stretch when you're doing the eccentric motion. The eccentric motion is that downward motion, the descending motion of your calf raise. So when you're doing that, you're actually gonna get a nice good calf stretch, and also you're going to be strengthening your gastrocnemius, which is the fast twitch muscle. So this is going to help me in my journey to increase my vertical jump, but this is something that's very important for basketball players. And it's important to really work your calf muscles, because your calves control your plantar flexion, which is when you get to point your toes. And if you have good plantar flexion, that means that you're going to be able to push off much better. I mean, if you think about it, for a player like Steph Curry or like a Kyrie Irving, I mean, they're pushing off a lot and they're moving around a lot. So that is a very important muscles for basketball players, and it's important for you to strengthen it. Now, we're talking about the calves, which is the back of the leg. Now we got to talk about the front. And the front, we're talking about one of my favorite muscles to really train. It's the tibialis anterior. This is very important because this is your shin muscles. You tend to feel it when you're having shin splints, but it prevents when there's force going through your foot it absorbs the force and it keeps it from going to your knee, because your knee is not structured to handle that much. I have a personal belief, personal theory that that's actually what happened to Derrick Rose. He's had a lot of injuries that I believe are very related to ankle mobility issues, is because when he would change directions, because you're having so much power and so much change of direction happening all at once, there's a lot of force that goes through, and if you have weak ankle mobility, your knee is going to be in a very vulnerable position. And as you can tell, the way his career is right now, yeah, that's part of the thing. So now, to strengthen the tibialis anterior, you can actually use, there's two methods that I use. One of the methods is I like to use a kettlebell. So I put myself on a bench and I have my ankle dangling and I put a kettlebell on and I lift it, and I'm going for about 12 to 15 reps, and I do about 3 of them. And then if you wanna not use the weights and the kettlebell is like too heavy or it hurts your foot too much, you can also use a resistance band, basically tied around a squat rack, and then also place a foam roller right underneath the ankle bends, and then put the resistance band around your foot and then pull back and forth. This is gonna help you a great deal in strengthening that tibialis anterior. And I'm telling you, ever since I started doing this type of stuff, I have had so much less ankle issues, so much less knee issues, and it's something I suggest to you. Now, to go back to Derrick Rose, you gotta be wondering,
Money, it's gotta be the shoes. Shoes. You sure it's not the shoes?
I'm sure, Mars.
What about the shoes?
No, Mars.
Money, it's gotta be the shoes.
and I may hate Spike Lee, you know why, but I definitely agree with that aspect, is that a lot of times it also is the shoe. You really have to take into account in terms of how your foot is built to where you wear the shoes that don't put you in an awkward angle to where you feel like you got good ankle support. Some people don't really like having a lot of ankle support. Some people can wear low Kobe type shoes, you know, like I guess I don't know, I'm not a sneakerhead like that, but you know, so they can wear those types of shoes because they feel like they have enough ankle mobility. And some people, especially a lot of big men, they need a lot of high top ankle support. So shoes can make a difference. In fact, even in that same study where they in Australia, where they looked at 10,000 basketball players, they noticed that the ones who had shoes with air bubbles, like the air cells, so this is whatever the new Nike technology where they have like the bubble stuff, the athletes that had those types of cells in their shoes were 4.3 times more likely to develop an ankle injury. So you may think you're looking stylish, but you might actually be putting yourself more at danger of an ankle injury. So those are the 4 things that I say that are gonna help you prevent an ankle injury. So to recap them, the first one is you gotta make sure you stretch. Number 2, you gotta make sure you do an active dynamic warm-up, so a proper warm-up that prepares you for the difficult activity you're about to do. The third one is you need to strengthen your ankle, the muscles around your ankle. If you don't strengthen those muscles, you're gonna be putting yourself in a vulnerable position. And number 4, you really need to take care of the sneakers that you're gonna be wearing if you're playing basketball. So make sure you shop around smart. So that does it here at Sports Sock. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully this video helps you avoid those injuries. You know, wishing Steph Curry, you know, a speedy recovery, you know, because it's unfortunate, because he's a real good player to, you know, watch. And, you know, I'll catch y'all next time. Thanks for checking me